there is actual Eagle news. Don't always get that a week out from camp. Everybody is in just wait and see mode, but they actually made a roster move yesterday. Not earth shattering, but a roster move just the same. They released one of the 86 cornerbacks they had on the roster. Craig James, who's been here for a good couple of years now, both on the regular roster and on the practice squad, was given his walking papers. It is a Birds 365 morning. Thank you very much for streaming on in with us being the Mac and Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. You are Birds 365 guys with one, not 2 and 2, just 1 week until Eagles report officially to camp and the 2022 season gets underway. J-Mac, since last we checked out 22 hours ago, there is actual Eagle news. Don't always get that a week out from camp. Everybody is in just wait and see mode, but they actually made a roster move yesterday. Not earth shattering, but a roster move just the same. They released one of the 86 cornerbacks they had on the roster. Craig James, who's been here for a good couple of years now, both on the regular roster and on the practice squad, was given his walking papers. I remember Craig James making a play here or there over the last 3 years. Nothing really to circle on your play sheet or to commit to memory, but he did make a couple of plays. My only question for you is, why yesterday? It just seems like a different type of time to be making this decision. If you thought Craig James wasn't good enough to play for you, they could have released him a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. Why yesterday to say, Craig, thanks for the memories?
It's a good question. Maybe his agent, took a look at the roster and said, wow, there's 13 cornerbacks on a 90-man roster. You're the math guy, Jody, but that's, what is that? Close to 15% of the roster is cornerbacks. Craig's buried deep, and maybe he said, hey, look, could you do us a solid and released him a little bit early? Maybe he can catch on. But you're right. I mean, could have done that a month ago, could have done that 2 months ago. I mean, it's clearly, if I were to, go from 1 through 13, cornerback 1, Craig would have been CB 13, not from a talent standpoint, but from a realism of trying to make the roster standpoint, because he's a special teams guy. He's been injured a lot. Probably will be best known for making that play against Green Bay when the Eagles were really up against it, and he saved the game with the past breakup. But, you want to look at the young guys, and they brought in 3 pretty high-profile undrafted rookies. Then they got Bradbury, and all of a sudden, there's just no path to the roster. So you might as well let them catch on somewhere else, and who knows, he might be back down the road. You know how these things work, and the Eagles know what they have in Craig James, and unfortunately wasn't able to stay healthy. I think that more than anything, once they moved on from him as a special teams player, which they kind of did last year, you knew his time was running short.
And you've got a optimistic outlook on it that they're trying to do him a favor. I don't know if the Eagles if that is in play here or not. I'm not saying that I know it's not, but I just see it as a numbers game. And here's the number that I have that I will question, and that's now 89. There are 90 men allowed on the roster at this time of year. Is there someone out there that they're targeting? Is there something in the offing that they needed to have a roster spot? You can do that in the moment. Yeah, you go pick up somebody, boom, you release the other guy. You put the two of them on the same exact release, or should I say on the same tweet, since NFL moves are now announced on Twitter as much as anywhere else these days. But do you think there's someone that just maybe the Eagles are looking at? He's sitting out there and they go, hey, if we don't sign him to a contract here soon, somebody else is going to do so. Could that be the case?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to bring in another guy. They have an open spot. They're going to bring somebody in. I think the people looking at, they're making room for Jesse Bates. I think they're insane. Maybe they're trying to pick up a punter. Who knows? To give Aaron Cepas some. They do have 90 players because they have Matt Leo, so he doesn't count. International Pathway Program for the third year, so they get an extra guy. And they'll build a spot before training camp. But yeah, I mean, those people saying, "Oh, the trade must be coming." No, it's just run of the mill, boring, back of the roster churn. Tight end we talked about a lot is another position. They have a bunch of them, but maybe you want more of a veteran type to feel a little bit more comfortable behind Dallas Goedert. You do have Richard Rodgers, but we know what this team feels about Richard Rodgers. Those would be the three positions I would look. I would look at punter. I would look at tight end. And what else did I say? I already forgot. But those are sort of it's back end roster churn. I don't think it's a signal of big things to come or
no,
first round pick going to Cincinnati. I don't think you have to worry about that.
It's just the fact that they did it 8 days out from camp that kind of grabbed my attention, because if nothing else, you open up camp, you let everybody get in there, you go through a couple drills and go, yeah, Craig James is number 13. That's Johnny
and maybe Craig said, you know what, I don't want to go there for a couple days. Come on, let's expedite this thing. So could have been a lot of reasons. And
how much of that really goes on, John, that a general manager, knowing full well, slap a percentage on it, percentage chance he makes the roster, less than 1%, that a general manager will, on a request from an agent, say, yeah, do I really want to play to the 1% here? No, it may generate some goodwill. Don't know who Craig James's agent even is, and if he's got other players around and about the league that maybe someday you're going to need a little bit of a compromise, and you look them in the eye and go, remember when I released Craig to do you guys that solid? How much does that really play into something like this?
I think it happens more than people think.
Okay.
I don't think it happens a ton. I think it happens in situations where you have, for instance, to use Craig as an example, a veteran player has been there. You're not going to do it with a rookie. A rookie's you're expected to be on the back of the depth chart and work your way up, and that's just the nature of it. An undrafted guy, Josh Jobe or a Josh Blackwell or a Mario Goodrich, I mean, they're expected to show up and fight even though the odds are against them. Here's a guy who's done a little bit for the organization, and he's been around for a while. He's well liked, and if you could do him a solid, that kind of stuff happens. Back when the Eagles brought in Tim Tebow, that was a favor, really. They weren't. Tim Tebow, in the greatest tradition in sports, as you know, Jody, that has now ended the final preseason game between the Eagles and Jets. Tim Tebow made the Philadelphia Eagles. He played great in that game. He didn't have a chance because they didn't want him. They did him a favor and said, we'll keep your name alive, and it happens all the time. It happens, but it's usually veteran players who are well liked, on the cusp. You'll do them a favor.
And Craig James is one of those guys. He has been around for a couple of years, so that may very well be the case. I just was a little surprised at the timing of it and thought there's got to be more here than meets the eye, but it may just be as simplistic as you're laying out. The Eagles trying to do a solid by a player who has been on the roster for a couple of years, and maybe his agent put an unofficial request in for his relief.